All right, welcome to Better Mental Health, a podcast for men looking to build a resource and community around destigmatizing mental health. I'm Blake.
I'm Blair.
And I'm Jamie.
I'm so stoked to be sharing our first official guest, Ilya Parizhsky, with the Better Mental Health community. Among many things, Ilya is a licensed psychotherapist and has been my personal therapist for almost 5 years. He's also the creator of Transformative Listening, which we can't wait to get into in this episode. Ilya has been a guiding light for me in my life. He's been an example of what modern masculinity can look like. He's a living example of the power of the transformative listening process, demonstrating unconditional love, emotional vulnerability, and deep connection. On top of all of that, Ilya has fostered growth for countless individuals, including myself, that I had never imagined possible. Ilya, thank you so much for being here.
Wow, Jamie, thank you so much for that sweet intro. So sweet. Thank you. Yeah, it's awesome to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're here because I've heard so much about you over the years. But I want to give a brief summary. The transformative listening process that Ilya created helps individuals form structured partnerships that foster loving attention and connection to the root of our pain. This loving attention creates a space for that pain to be seen and discharged through the natural ways that we process emotions in our body. Things like laughter, crying, shaking, raging, yawning, etc.
Yeah. Do you want to give what transformative listening is in your own words?
Absolutely. So here's what I've discovered. And I started living in community and like being close to people and doing this process of taking turns listening to each other in the context of people I've lived with. I had so many puzzles resolved. Right. For example, I'll just give this quick example and then I'll give an overview of transformative listening. So I'm in the kitchen with my friends who I live with. We're hanging out. And then I leave for a second to go to my room. And then when I come back, they're not there. And I feel like sad, but like really sad. Why am I so sad? I mean, it's so stupid. This is nothing. They're just like not there. And it's fine. I'm just going to be fine. I'll be fine. I'm fine. It's not a problem. I'll just cook something or whatever. And I'm just doing my thing. And then they return and I'm still like sad and upset. And they're like, what's up? And I'm like, hey, can I do a little session with you? Because we were doing this process. And they're like, sure, yeah. You want 5 minutes? And then they pull up next to me and I like hold their hands, Melanie and Garlic, just holding each other's hands. I'm looking at them and I'm like, suddenly I start crying and I'm like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, oh, there was enough safety that I was connecting with them. And then they left. And that reminded me of when my mom left our family.
Whoa.
And I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I just felt the sadness because there was enough of something similar about the setup. And as I'm crying about it, and my friends are looking at me just smiling, we love you, Ilya. Right. Then I'm like, my mom, oh, right. And then simultaneously healing and discover this thing is about. But then it's like 5 minutes later, I'm like, all right, cool. Thank you guys. Feels so much better. Okay, your turn. And then they each take a turn and they're doing something about whatever is going on in their heads. Life is so complex and intricate, and there's so many things going on at any moment. And so transformative listening is just you give some set amount of time to one person at a time, and you give them unconditional loving attention. And you know that the discharge and release of pent-up emotion is good. So like when I started crying, my friends were like, they weren't like, there, stop it. It's okay.
Yeah.
It didn't happen like that. They didn't try to talk me out of crying. They were like, lean into it, baby.
Yeah.
We know this is good. We know this is the good stuff. So transformative listening starts from the idea that each of us is good. Each of us is born whole and good and able to flourish in this life. And each of us gets hurt. When we're hurt, we record everything that happens to us in a clump, an associative clump. And we could work through that hurt right there and then if we got the right kind of loving attention and got to release. And babies do this spontaneously and naturally. They rage and shake and tantrum. and they don't quite get enough loving attention. So some things get stored, right? And throughout life, we get more and more stuff stored away, sort of like pent up charge with associative valleys that connect it, so that when inputs come your way, like my friends, they're gone. So I was fully expecting to be connected. I come back, and with my mom, same thing. I went to school, and then I came back and she was gone. She hadn't warned me. So it was just like sudden disappearance of a wanted contact, then triggered a memory state that included sadness and longing. And then when my friends actually let me discharge that sadness and longing, then it sort of sorted itself out. It was no longer like this pent up intensity, but a kind of relaxed openness replaced it.
Nice.
And I've worked on that a bunch, and I've cried about my mom leaving a bunch, to the point where it's just a fact in my life. It's not a sad thing at all. And so transformative listening is an opportunity for people to do this process, to take turns listening to each other and encouraging the release of pent-up emotion. And it's not just crying, right? Laughter is a big one. Like when I first got on this podcast, in particular, like when we first met, and there was that nervous anticipation sense of not being known, if we knew about the transformative listening process and just hit play, I could have laughed so hard, you guys. I could have laughed so hard and for so long and been like, do you like me? Do you like me? Right? Or whatever childlike thing is behind that nervousness.
Yeah.
Right? And actually getting to do that, I've done that a bunch, makes me less and less nervous, and makes me like able to go on stages. And I'm starting to do stand-up comedy, right? So,
Hey,
and like
Nice.
actually working, kind of combining, right? But combining this process with that. So going on stage, bombing, and then getting a turn and just being like, I sucked, but I know I'm good. And whatever the kid-like state that needed to get discharged gets that normally we just have to manage it. There's a chance for it to be released. And one of the beauties of transformative listening is the exchange, the reciprocal exchange of time for time, and the fact that both people are thinking about one person at a time using the same system. Neither person is the expert on the other.
Yep.
You both just go, hey, you need loving attention. We're going to give it to you right now.
Yeah.
And we'll switch and give it to me after.
Yeah. I feel like in my therapy, there's such and I know it's probably from my personality type and wanting to be a therapist myself, but I find myself like wanting to have that with my therapist after a while. I'm like, wait, now it's your turn.
But
it never comes. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll just talk about me for a long time.
I don't think it's just personality. I think it's very human.
Yeah.
I think it's just like fundamental to who we are. We like to be connected, and connection's not just one way, right? Now, therapy, there's a beautiful thing about the one-way connection, right? There's something profound about the fact that it never will be about the other person, right? So there's something like you could just count on them. You could really just count on their presence in your life. But there's also something a little restricting in that you're counting on them, but you don't really know anything about them. So there's actually some therapeutic modalities like ADP I'm a big fan of, that they recommend judicious self-disclosure. Now, judicious is just think about, is sharing this aspect of you going to be of benefit to this particular person with a particular thing? But share openly about your damn self, right? Share about yourself so that the person doesn't feel so alone. Right.
Part of the transformative listening process, at least in the groups that Ilya has led, Ilya isn't just the facilitator, he's actually a participant of it. And so that's one of the things that was like a really huge benefit for me going into it, was getting some of that from Ilya, because I think in other spaces that I've been in, been that feels like a power dynamic, but actually getting that reciprocal nature of it was amazing.
I love that you raised that, Jamie. And just one more thing I want to say about that real quick. being in the listener role is powerful in itself. Like in the groups that I lead, because I'm in the leadership role, the sessions I got to take in those groups are so much deeper in certain ways because I'm taking responsibility for the well-being of this group.
Mm.
And so that translates to the one-on-one relationship as well, the transformative listening relationship. The kernel of it is one person exchanging attention with another person. And for the turn where they're talking, you are taking responsibility for their well-being. Ultimately, the responsibility rests in them, obviously, because we're each of us responsible for our own well-being. However, in a very real way, you're taking responsibility for their transformation.
Right.
You're going, my attention is going to make a transformative difference to you in the next 20 minutes.
Mm.
And that attitude and getting to aim that at them then prepares us for a session in a different way than if we just come in sort of receptively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, heal me,
Hmm.
heal me, do something to me.
Right.
That's you're speaking to 3X Christian scientists, and that was kind of what we grew up
Yeah.
with.
Yeah, that hits the
Yeah.
nerve.
That's so funny. Yeah,
Well,
you would talk to a
that's
practitioner and
hilarious.
you'd just be like, "Heal me," literally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ilya, one of the things that we've talked about on this podcast before is for a lot of men, expressing any kind of emotion other than anger is very difficult. Was it hard for you to, I mean, you're talking about this experience of crying openly with your two friends. I think for a lot of guys, that idea is like terrifying. Like I could never get there. Was that something that's always been easy for you to get to that level of
Oh
okay.
no.
So I would love
No,
to
no,
hear
no.
how
It
you
took
got more comfortable with
a
that.
lot of
Yeah.
work to
Mhm.
get
Yeah.
there. It took a lot of work. A bunch of the first beginning sessions that I had, it was just a lot of laughter, actually. A lot of laughter and
Yeah.
talking and laughing and talking and laughing and talking and laughing and talking and laughing. It took a while actually for me to get to tears. It would be just the right
Mhm.
setup. Just the right setup. Like that setup where they're coming right to the surface
Mhm.
was perfect. And so having my friends right there was really helpful for that. But I want to speak more broadly to like what happens to men.
Yeah.
Like in a sociocultural sort of historic and broad, almost geological sense, we're life forms on a planet, right? And life forms on a planet need like an exoskeleton and need or skin or boundaries, right? Need some kind of defense against the environment. They need like a differentiator that demarcates like here I am and here's the environment and there's things I'll let in about the environment, there's things I can do about dangerous pieces of the environment, right? And that's our ancestors is one-celled organisms, right? So it starts with that and then we build up into more and more complex collections of organisms that eventually make a more right animals, and then we start to build up into societies, right, into groups of animals, right, and then we have our special group of animals where we can change just by using our minds. We don't have to wait for genetics to change our function. We can change our function by deciding to be different, right? That's sort of what makes me hopeful about humanity. But it's also in some ways what got us in trouble. Right now we've kind of gone far along without doing the necessary change to align with our environment. But so all that is to say, to set up that we have societies that need certain functions, right? In the history of animals living around other dangerous animals, like we needed to band together and protect ourselves against the dangers that could come from other primates hunting us, right? And so we had to have a group in our larger societies that would be willing to mete out violence for the protection of the whole.
Mm.
And I think that's where numbing our emotions comes from. Is it serves the function that in society we can have a group that if given orders will kill others, right? And for the benefit of the society will act in whatever means necessary for the protection of the collective, right? And so, and that I think historically has fallen on men, right? So that's where, because we're all born very, 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 very extraordinarily sensitive. Look at any baby, like they're very, very dependent, and they need lots and lots of love. But there's this attitude that gets aimed at men that like, well, you don't really need love actually the same way. You need to just roughhouse. And don't be whatever. Don't be a crybaby. Don't be a girl. That's a big
Right.
insult to a man or to a boy, right? And so that training, that it's just in the air. It's in the air that we need a group that's like disconnected enough and lonely enough, but as a result, but like disconnected and numb enough that we can act as the agents of violence.
Yeah.
That's
So that,
fascinating.
so yes, I think men have a hard time getting in touch with our emotions because there's been just a slew of data coming at us that you're not supposed to be in touch with them. Right. And I think where we're going, we're not going to need to kill other humans. And so that's really going to atrophy. And I do see like a Delta elite strike force for like natural disaster relief efforts, right? Where you get like people who are willing to live on the adrenal edge of reality to go in and try to save somebody. Like, I really see like the future of our like armed forces is going to be about like, there's an asteroid coming at the planet and we need someone with nukes to go out and shoot it. Just things like that, where we're actually fighting actual like threats from the forces of nature and not the threats that come from each other, because we're a collective. Human beings are clearly a collective. We're made happy by the happiness of others. Our nature is love. Our nature is connection, right? And so men too, it's in our it's in our best interest to get sensitive and to start crying and to connect to how lonely it's been to be this far away from humanity, right? To connect with others and to connect in the context of a loving presence of a person who's there going, just share anything you want. I'm here. I want to know what's going on. Right. And eventually, like, I cried a little in a session and then cried a little more and it went well and it felt good. And so I cried a little more and it went well and it felt good. And so I cried a little more and then I got used to it.
Yeah.
So the transformative listening that you're describing, I'm curious any influences, because what comes to mind, I think it's Peter Levine, somatic experiencing. I've been talking a lot about in the program that I'm in. It's pretty woo-woo, as I call it. I love it. You went to CIS, actually, didn't you?
I did. I went to the drama therapy program.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Okay. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that offline at some point.
I love that woo.
Yeah.
I love that woo, Blair.
But the somatic experiencing, there's a few things that my brain is doing right now. It's like there's the somatic experiencing as an influence to what you're describing and what you've created with this transformative listening, but also within Christian Scientists, I've been having a lot of conversations about and writing papers in my program, but with other therapists about the difficulty that I have. I'll only speak to my own experience, and Jamie and Blake, you guys can jump in at any point. But my experience in trying to feel my body is tremendously more difficult because of having grown up in Christian Science, being told my whole childhood, my whole early adult life, like, there is no body, there is no physical experience, everything is spiritual. So yeah, I'm curious if that was something that you dealt with when you and Jamie were working together, or was Jamie just way more in touch with his somatic experience than I was?
Yeah. No, I think I was relating to Ilya talking about it being a slow process. And I think that for me, I think I would consider myself a very numb person in terms of that's one of the ways in which I suppress my emotions, is to numb out. And when Ilya was talking about the power of transformative listening and how it's changed over time for him, and coming on the podcast, if we were to actually do what we needed to do, for me, it would have been like shaking, because I had this nervous energy coming in and I was feeling that in my body, but it's taken so much time to understand that that process. But yeah, doing the transformative listening process has for me been in large part addressing the fear that I have, especially in front of people, because that's what it is. It's about connection and being with other people. And so, Ilya, I'm going to give you free reign to speak about my experience if you want to and what you've noticed. But
I can't. It lives in a box that I
you
cannot
can't do
speak
it.
of.
I can't, even with my.
I can't, even with their permission. I
It's so
can't.
hard. Yeah,
No.
yeah, I get that. That's fair. Yeah, well, I don't know if that answers your question, Blair, but it's just, I think I wouldn't be able to do this podcast without having done transformative listening. Like, I think that I was too afraid to speak in front of not only like knowing that this is going to be out on the internet, but like in a group of people trying to have an intellectual conversation where I would have to keep my train of thought without getting caught up in the fear. I've had so many experiences within transformative listening to let that process happen and see it through and get through the like weirdness, the shakes, the numbing out, my brain sort of completely disengaging, to be able to then be like, oh, I'm actually okay. People are still smiling at me. People are crying with me. People are holding that space with me. And I feel so much more settled. That fear is still there, but I know that I can get through and process through that fear. And I'm way more settled in who I am and knowing that I'm going to be okay as a result. So I attribute that all to transformative listening.
Can you talk through more of the what does a session look like? Because we've heard about kind of the shaking, trembling, and leaning into some of this stuff. So what does that session look like?
Yeah, Ilya, I'll let you speak to that more. But I think that the part of the fact that it's that designated time slot where you're giving someone, whether it's 5-10 minutes, and you're giving each other that space, knowing that that person is there trying to work with you to give you that safe space. What they're doing is they're trying to find something that Ilya has called a contradiction. And I don't know if we should get into that and try and explain it, but it's like trying to find a thing that will help you see that you are safe enough to re-experience what you experienced as a child, but then have that emotion come out with that person rather than keep thinking that you're actually stuck there and can't let that out.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to describe it. And I think it takes many passes to get it, including just experiencing it. But what we're going for is to ground it in specifics. When Jamie talked about, or I'll talk about myself, when I'm shaky at the start, I'm nervous, right? There's maybe a distress that says, I'm not supposed to do this. I'm not supposed to feel this. I'm not supposed to be like that. I'm supposed to just show up and be very still and relaxed.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not okay
or whatever
to feel
that
that
idea
way.
is, right? It's not okay to feel that way. Exactly. It's not okay to feel this way is maybe a perfect summary. And so what you look for is like creating an experience. And in some ways, what transformative listening is built to do is to create an experience that's counter to or in contradiction to the hurt and the conclusion based on that hurt. So shaky plus it's not okay to feel that way. Well, in a transformative listening session, the counter to that would be, it's totally cool that you feel that way. Come on out.
Yeah.
And then it's what happens in a session. It's not a set piece, right? It's experiential and it's free flowing and it's creative. And it's creative from two positions. It's creative from the talker position. You just say whatever comes into mind and lean into the intensities that come to mind. Don't try to shy away from them, but actually shake. Go ahead and shake and laugh and notice that you're embarrassed, and then notice what might be even more embarrassing, and then say that on purpose, right? So lean into it. And from the listener role, it's creative in that you're just, once you both have the framework in mind, you're just bringing your human presence and creativity to that person now.
Yeah.
And it's always in a moment of now that it unfolds based on what you can come up with together to get this person into a healing process. And you're relating to an autonomic nervous system that you don't control, right? So you can't just be like, cry now.
Yeah.
That's not going to work, right? Right. And I said that and you guys laughed. So there's enough, you could say, well, you could even construct backwards. what did I just contradict when I said, cry now? Well, maybe there's a voice inside of each of us that's like, you're supposed to do da da da. And
Yeah.
so when I demonstrate that voice, then there's laughter. In some ways, like comedians are just constructing contradictions or counters to distress continuously, right? And the funniest ones are just masters at doing that, right? So the creative process is the key to it. It's that you're being with somebody, right? So you ask, what is a session? It's never the same twice. It's never the same twice, even with two people. You just come in with beginner's mind every time. But from the listener role, you're like, I'm going to get a transformative experience for this person to take place by hook or by crook. What can I do? And from the talker role, you're just like, I'm going to get a transformative experience to happen for myself. What can I do? Right. And then together you play in that way. So it's actually really fun.
Yeah.
And with the rules and the boundaries that you set in place for the transformative listening process, it creates a safe enough space for that dynamic to happen.
I think for most people going into that experience for the first time, all of your instincts are probably like fighting against you. Because for a lot of us, we have kind of had a lot of that trained out of us. Like you were saying earlier, your brain is constantly saying, don't feel that way, or don't do that. Don't. And so to get into an environment where you're just supposed to kind of relax into it, and it sounds like you're really just supposed to let it free flow. I imagine it's a challenge at first for a lot of people. Do you find that that is the case, and that the more sessions they do, I imagine they open up more, right?
I love that question. And Blake, you said all your instincts are against it. And I know what you mean, right? But I would say your instincts are actually aligned with getting you the emotional release to take place. That's like a natural and spontaneous process that's been wanting to happen from inside of you forever. And then our training, training and our protective mechanisms are all about keeping that down. Well, is that random? No, it's because generally speaking, in conversations like this one, where you have a group of 4 people, which is my favorite number of people for a transformative listening group.
Interesting.
You have a group of 4 people. People don't want and aren't going to welcome you nervous cackling for 5 minutes in a row. It's just not a thing, right? And so, you have some training that goes, nervous cackling wants to come out. Cut that out. Keep it down. And so, yes, Blake, as you go and do this, you have an experience of nervous cackling and maybe just even talking about what's on your mind, but stuff you wouldn't normally share. And then your temperature goes up. That's another aspect of the discharge process that's actually very spontaneous and normal. Palms sweat, temperature goes up. Sometimes temperature drops for shivering, kind of fear stuff. Temperature goes up for embarrassment, rage type stuff. You have a session like that, you metabolize it as nothing went wrong. Afterwards, you feel kind of a little bit euphoric. Well, next session, you might have that instinct even stronger to lean into it. You try it, you do it, it goes well. You start to get a taste for it. And suddenly you're like, I can cry at the drop of a hat. Just set a timer. Give it to me. I can access. It becomes like almost a parallel stream that you can get into when there is attention, when there is a willing, available, open listener. You can just go, okay, what am I able to get access to right now? Oh, there's something. And then you just follow to whatever. And even now, I don't know what a session is going to be like at the beginning of a session. It's not planned. It's a following a natural thing that wants to unfold from inside.
One of the things that's coming to mind as you talk about the work is I'm curious if you get any parts work like IFS, and internal family systems type things coming up in your transformative listening sessions with people. Is that something you all work with?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing. It's this framework. It's so similar in so many ways to so many other ways of working with people. And that's a good thing. because that means we're
Mhm.
onto something. We're onto something. So parts work, absolutely. And I don't think of them as discrete parts that have personalities that make any kind of sense long term, right? Whereas IFS determines like the manager and the
Yeah.
firefighter or the protector, right? And they think of these parts as doing discrete jobs that cohere in time. In the transformative listening model, it's something like you are a flexible intelligence able to respond to life as needed. That's the only part, is a flexible intelligence able to respond to life as needed. And then when we get hurt, parts splinter off. You could call them parts. You could say like erroneous beliefs of various sorts that protect us from re-experiencing hurts. So I call them distresses or strategies for managing hurt without release.
Wow.
So in that sense, they're parts, but like all parts are invited to participate, obviously. And we investigate, you can use some of the same language as IFS to a degree if it works to elicit the discharge process, right?
Right.
The emotional release process. That is the resolution of disconnected parts,
Right.
right? And in my experience, having done this work, I love going into any and every other system of personal growth work. And I'm so ready to do what that system delineates as the aim, because my system is so fluidly able to access the emotional release valve. So when I start doing IFS work, there I am right there talking to them and able to talk in a way that's very connected to my emotions, and I can really engage with them, right? And when I teach this process, I don't teach specifically about specific parts. What I teach about is connection.
Mm.
Connection as yourself to another.
Yeah.
That's the key, that undoing that unbearable sense of isolation and the requirement to hold in what's actually going on inside.
Mhm.
That's the whole aim.
Yeah.
That's
The way
fascinating.
that I'm perceiving it now as a father is this process feels like what we should have had as a child in those moments. It's recreating an environment where that connection can exist and you can have that love, that unconditional love that you are looking for given to you in a connected space, and be able to actually process the emotion.
Yeah, I think that's profound, because I think we get stuck in child states,
Mm-hmm.
including the emotions that we weren't allowed to express.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, what the work is finding those child states and speaking in the language of the child. Come out wherever you are,
Yeah.
and you're welcome here,
Mm-hmm.
right? In whatever way we can find to get that message across to that part, right?
Mhm.
But it doesn't stay as a separate part. It actually, through the experience of feeling and releasing, gets integrated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We had talked about, Ilya had mentioned this in an email to us, is maybe like throwing in a session into this podcast. We
That's what I
could
was gonna
jump
say
into,
next.
yeah, we could jump into maybe doing that. I think it'd be really cool. I told the guys that if neither of them were open to doing it on the podcast, that I would do it, but I wanted to see if
Bold man, Jake.
I Blake, how
Blair,
are you
Blake,
feeling?
yeah.
I'm open to it. What about you,
Perfect. I
Blair?
was hoping that you'd say that.
Oh,
I'm open to it too, but I would rather watch, and because
Oh,
I'm in therapy. I have my own stuff that I'll work through. So, but I want to
well,
see. I'm
a lot
very
of pressure.
curious.
well, in the spirit of transformative listening, I would invite all of us to take a short turn.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That it would just be a little one for each of us to get
That's
our
cool.
three flavors,
I like
Sounds
that.
good.
our four flavors rather,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like that.
sweet.
I
that
think
sounds
that's
good.
Sweet. So it would be, so we got, I think we could do 3 minutes each.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you guys
Okay.
think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
quick ones.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
Will you
a
be
little quick one.
the counselor for the three of us, and then one of us can do it for you? Or
Yeah,
not
yeah. I'll
counselor,
be
but
the main.
the listener.
Yeah. I'll be the main listener for the three of you, and then Jamie, I'll
Yeah.
probably pick you to be
Cool.
my main squeeze for the turn that I do as talker. And I could actually, my policy often when I am in a situation where people have never done this before is to take the first turn as the talker.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that it's supposed to look like this,
Right.
because it's not. This is just me. This is going to be me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not an example of how to do this, but also it's just a vulnerable process. And I don't want to ask any of you guys to do it without actually doing it myself first.
Cool.
Right. So
Fair enough.
if that
That's sweet.
works for y'all.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
like for you guys, anywhere you go, there's really no way to do it wrong. When it's your turn as the talker, you literally cannot go wrong. It's like you get unconditional love. There's no conditions, right? It's all good. Whatever you say or don't say. We've done all this talk about emotional release. Please don't get it in your head that you're supposed to try to do something other than what's actually happening inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that whole process is spontaneous and it's you when it happens. But if it's not happening, then whatever is actually happening in you is what should be happening. That's the thing we privilege, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 3 minutes, 3 minutes
You got
each.
the timer?
I got the timer. And the other
Perfect.
thing is, normally, you guys, in a transformative listening context, when you take a turn, we have confidentiality to the point where you don't even ever actually refer to the person's session, what they did in session, even to that person in a session you were there for.
Right.
Right. It's like strict confidentiality so that the session space is this sacred space where you're just not related to it outside of being in the session space. That's part of what gives permission to actually say and do whatever occurs to you. You're not going to be held to that. That's not a standard by which we measure you. That wasn't some real truth about who you really are. That was you using listening attention to try some stuff to get some healing to happen. Right. And so we normally don't talk about it. So in this podcast, and in the interest of sharing what this process is like, it's obviously going to be recorded. Right. So that's a little sensitive difference. That's a sensitive difference. But I've actually I'm shooting a documentary currently where I'm doing a 4-person group. And we have a filmmaker in there, cameras, lights, right? So
wow.
I really want people to see this and see what it looks like. And it's one thing to describe it. It's another thing to actually do it.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to see if you guys are willing to do it. So thank you for agreeing. And now I think that was just a lot of nervous talking because I'm about to just take a turn. Okay. So Jamie, are you ready for me?
I got you. Yeah.
All right. Oh, got me, please. Oh my God. Okay. One thing, you guys, I have to say, you guys are so sweet.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
You're just like so. Oh, I love your smiling faces. So sweet. Maybe part of it is, I think this is what I would have preferred. Like when I came to the country, right? What about like you guys?
Oh, yeah.
Can you guys meet me on my first day of school?
Yeah. We'll be there. Yeah, we would have loved to met little Ilya come to the US, take you under our wing.
I think I can like feel into like that part of me has just been watching and like
I love that.
Oh, they like me. and it's embarrassing, and I'm leaning into the embarrassment, right? I'm just like, just looking for it. But what would happen? Because I can tell I'm like, perform, do it right, do it right, do it right, do it right, do it right. Like I have that kind
Yeah. Yeah.
of, there's a part of me that's like tense on myself, right? So what if
Would
I
it
just
help to
like,
get a reminder that there's no need to be anything other than exactly what you want to be right now?
it's a lie. Yeah, I think it's like a scared. I must be scared. Guys, I must be scared. Oh God.
I'm always scared.
Did you hear Blake? Did you hear Blake there? He said,
What did Blake say?
Blake said,
I said I'm always scared.
Oh, Blake. Oh,
That was a good contradiction.
That's really good. Oh my God. It's us and our beards. They protect us.
Exactly. It's all for show.
It's all for show. Oh God. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still, I could tell I'm tense, but there's a part of me that's like, you could maybe relax a little. Oh my God. And then there's just yeah, I'm so like, my mind is so like
Mm-hmm.
get it right. Okay, there's my timer. Okay, you guys.
I love that.
Wow.
That was my session. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then normally we ask like a little silly question or something to get attention off of what that person just did and onto like other things. So Jamie, you want to hit me with a attention out question?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a combo question. What do you get when you cross a squirrel with a water bottle?
A squirber waddle. And it's actually it's a new animal. It lives in that big garbage patch in the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a squirble
That makes
waddle.
sense.
It's
A squirble
it's
waddle.
it's like starting to eat some of that plastic actually. So.
Oh yeah, it's environmentally friendly squirrel.
Yeah,
It helps
squirble
us get
waddle.
rid of
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you.
To add some context to like Ilya is very practiced in letting whatever emotion comes out fly, and I think it's admirable. And I want to reiterate, we don't need to try and recreate whatever it is for you that comes up in the feeling. It could be
That's
nothing.
right.
It could
And
be
however it looks for you, it could be nothing. It could be anything, right?
Yeah.
And it could be free associatively ranting your way toward, I mean, you know, if you're inspired and you're like, I want to try that shit, but it doesn't have to look like that, right? It's like you can borrow from people, but you only if you're like, oh, here I am. This is great. So Blake, Blair, Jamie, who wants to go next?
I can go next if you guys want a little more buffer.
Go for it.
All right.
Jamie's up.
Jamie, I got your timer, my friend. You're up.
Okay. Man. Yeah, normally well, I'm thinking about the beginning of the podcast. When we first started, I was like, this is crazy. We have a guest on. I was feeling very uncomfortable, very nervous. Yeah, I don't like the idea of a bunch of people being able to see me in my discomfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are here with you while you don't like that. That is just fine.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I feel like I'd like to escape. I'm definitely numbing out.
Thanks for sharing. I'm trying to think of ways to join you. Could I escape with you? Would that be helpful? Should we just get out of here?
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
Where do you escape to?
Sign off.
Get
Yeah.
the fuck
Yeah.
out, man.
I
Just
feel
get
a
the
little
fuck out.
I feel a little trapped. we got a podcast to finish.
No, let's just leave, Jamie. Let's
just
go.
get out of here. Yeah, let's go.
Let's just get a. You just call me on another line.
Yeah. That would be nice. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
To get a good one-on-one session after this would be really nice.
Oh, hell yeah.
I really wish, like, I'm wanting and I'm wishing that I could be like fully emotional, so that, you know, as much as I'm afraid of it, I wish that other people could see it more.
It feels
This
like you
is
contradicted
so
yourself.
good.
You said you didn't want to be seen, and now you
Yeah,
do.
yeah. This is so good, Jamie. It's so good, man. It's
Yeah.
so good. Just the way, just exactly how you're showing up. It's really, this is good.
Mm-hmm.
This is good. There's a part that's scared. There's a part that wishes you weren't scared.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah. Another thing that's coming
Yeah.
up is like after you know, and as we're kind of coming to a close, I'm like, oh, I wish I had done things differently, or asked this question, or, you know, the rumination part of me.
Yeah.
It's like I will be spinning about this podcast for the next couple days.
Here's what I suggest, my friend. Just that was the timer, but just try telling us, just asserting it. I did it all right.
Yeah, that's hard. That's really hard. I was telling Blake right before this podcast, I was like, I've got this perfectionist tilt of like, I really want things to go right, and I will be I
And
need
they
things to go
did.
well.
And they did. They did.
There are aspects that have gone really well in this podcast.
I see it.
And
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it. Yeah.
All right, Jamie, just because of time, I'm
Yeah.
going to ask you a silly question. Okay. The Squirtle bottle from earlier,
Yeah. Squirwordle.
it goes what?
It goes?
Yeah, like what sound does it make?
Oh.
All right. Sweet. So we'll just keep going around.
Yeah.
Blake, Blair, who wants it?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I need 1 second to plug in
Your laptop?
my Mac. Yes. So give me 1 second.
Blake has found a way to escape.
Blake's found his out.
And there you go.
Ran out of juice.
Before it goes.
Saved it.
Yeah,
All right.
sweet.
Nice.
All right. Who wants it?
Blair, you or me?
You.
Okay.
All right, Blake, you got picked. Blair took a step back. We're here, man. And I'll be the main talker, but everyone else is here adding loving attention and just present and available.
Okay.
Here you go, man. Hello.
All right. I can feel my heartbeat increasing, knowing that everyone is all eyes are on me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I know I have this tendency. Last time that the attention was on me on one of our other episodes, I immediately deflected and tried to get the attention off of me again. So this is this is tough. Yeah, I feel like for this episode, I was like very conscious of how I was like sitting, and like I was trying not to look at my own self on camera, and maybe I should have taken a leaf out of your book, Ilya, and just turned my camera off. But I felt like I had this sort of twitchy energy throughout this
That's
episode.
not what I was noticing when I was looking at you.
Okay. That's all definitely what I was feeling. So
It's so great.
Yeah.
It's so great that you're sharing it.
Yeah.
You're just so doing it right.
Thank you.
Like the whole humanness thing. It's clear.
Thank you. I think I always had a bit of an image issue, like how how the world sees me. Um,
Wow. Yeah, that's
and
tough.
yeah, and yeah,
That
putting
hurts.
myself out there on something like this is it's like, oh, now there's going to be a lot more eyeballs on on this outward appearance of mine. So
Let's just imagine that the world sees you with love. That would have been the only attitude that ever made sense.
it's
Yeah.
hard sometimes to see that.
It's the only thing that you ever deserved from the
Thank you.
moment you got here. From the moment you got here. Just look at him. Wow. What a miracle.
Thank you. That's honestly just accepting something like that is very hard to do. I want to like my instinct is just to make a just like a I don't know some comment to deflect that,
Also
make a joke
wonderful.
out of it.
Blake,
Yeah.
yet another way you're wonderful. Honestly. Just all of you deserving of love.
I I'm not sure even what to say.
And you just feel. Just
Yeah.
feel. Just
Yeah.
feel. Yeah. It's beautiful. Yeah. Right. That was the timer right there. Thank you so much.
All right.
There's one thing I want to add is sort of like and we can, which is there's one of the things I was thinking about, and I feel like you get this in a longer period of time, is like what you're experiencing, Blake, with the feeling of not wanting the attention on you. That there's something there's moments in your life earlier where you didn't have that success with the attention on you. You weren't given this attention and love that you needed. So part of the contradiction is you're getting that attention and love now, but then also to go back and maybe access some of those earlier moments. If you had more time, it would be cool to go back and explore some of those earlier memories and find those spaces where maybe you didn't have that attention that you needed in this loving way.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thanks for doing
Thank
that.
you for boldly leaping out here and being with us. It's wonderful. And can we ask you a silly question?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do band name. The two of us will come up with a band name by doing this. You go adjective or noun, and I go adjective or noun. Which one would you prefer?
I'll take adjective.
Okay, so you're describing the noun or quality of a noun. I'll go noun. Okay, I got a noun. You tell me when you got an adjective.
Excellent.
Lamp post. So the excellent lamp post is our band. And what's the genre?
Oof. That feels I don't know. My initial reaction was jazz. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
jazz band.
that does
Yeah.
give me
like
jazz
it.
vibes.
I like it. Excellent lamppost. All right. Thank you, Blake. So, Blair, you ready to
Thank
jump
you,
in, my
guys.
friend? Thank you
Sure.
so much.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. 3 minutes for you.
I've been shaking for a while.
Woo! Shake,
yeah.
shake, 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 shake. Yeah.
It's like it's in my chest, it's in my jaw. It's so funny when I've had conversations about like, oh, I don't know what I'm feeling, and then someone just breaks it down to like, all right, well, what are you feeling in your body? I'm like, oh, I know that, but then I talk about how I don't, and I'm like, I feel like I'm just a bunch of contradictions.
Eh.
Yeah.
Ye-
But I
Yeah.
try to like the breathing has helped. That's like the thing that's the only thing that's like been really helpful for me.
You might be doing it more right than that voice says. That voice that says, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, man. We've talked about the inner critic. That was the very first thing that we talked about or read about in grad school, my program. And I was like, whoa, my whole life I've been living in fear, and this inner critic has been driving my life car. Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't start on the inside, Blair. It didn't start on the inside. Somehow, some things happened that made you conclude that you were not doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and it was just wrong in some sense, in some very real sense.
Yeah.
Like you were doing it perfectly right. If you got hurt, it wasn't because you're lacking somehow fundamentally.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a protective way of being. That was part of the exercise with this inner critic, was like thanking it and being like, thank you for getting me this far. I'm gonna take the wheel so you can get in the back seat.
Wow.
Like
Yes.
a whole exercise like that was
Holy
really
shit.
helpful. But yeah, there's so much with therapy. I've talked about, like, there's just too much to even like get into. I'm like, how am I ever going to work through all the things that have to be worked through? It's going to take several lifetimes. So then I throw my hands up and I'm like, what's the point?
Oh,
But I really resonated with connection you're mentioning. Connection is like everything for me that I've learned. And I've explored that a lot in non-monogamy. And that was kind of the thing that saved me through depressive periods. Very shaky still.
shaky. It's wonderful.
All the eyes.
Yeah. You're doing it so well. Yeah. All right. There's the timer.
Perfect. It does feel like a release.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So, a silly question for you.
Sure.
How about just make a sentence out of the letters in the word yes? But just like super quick sentence. Don't think about what is going to be ahead of time. Just why
Your
yes.
excellent lamppost band is superb.
Fuck yeah. Sweet.
And one other thing I want to add is
Not
like
much.
these shorter sessions are, I think, a small example. And I think that in my experience, in the longer sessions that we get, there's more opportunity for these contradictions to come up, more opportunity for you to settle into the discomfort and start to feel the safety. And then like all of a sudden you don't know what could trigger it, but you find that thing, whoever is being the listener finds that thing, and it really just helps you fully release. And it doesn't happen every time, but you kind of get to keep going and keep working through until you find that contradiction that really works.
Yeah, and the other thing that I love about transformative listening is the fact that once you learn the process, it's yours.
Yeah.
It's really yours and it's free of charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you get people that you can do sessions with, that's it. You don't exchange money, you just keep growing together and keep helping each other transform. And it's also something, once you learn it, as you learn it, I really encourage people to share about how to do this with anyone. As long as you don't charge money for it, I'm totally happy with you doing it with anyone at all. And obviously, if you're a therapist, you can incorporate this stuff into your practice, right? But like so I create trainings and do groups, right, to get transformative listening out there, and those obviously cost money. But like the kernel of it, the one-on-one relationship, is a free forever relationship of mutual benefit and transformation. So that's the thing that probably excites me most about it, as that foundational piece, that just arming people with that ability to just take their healing in their hands, build a healing network, have the sessions you need to really open up to who you really are and have been since you got here. There's just some stuff sitting on top of it. We're each one of us amazing, incredible beings, so worthy of love, so able to give love. And we've just been hurt a little bit. And you give a person like that some attention, guess what? They can be better off on the other side of it. Make it a process that you do regularly with each other. Guess what? you're going to be better off on the other side of that. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
my passion. Thank you so much for inviting me on the show
Yeah.
and allowing me to talk to
Thank
you
you for
about all
being
this
here.
and
Yeah.
share stuff about my life I wasn't expecting to talk about, but it's kind of fun. And thank you
Yeah.
for the caring questions. And
Yeah. Thank you
Oh,
so much
thank
for
you
being
so
here.
much.
Is
Yeah.
there anything you want to sort of plug in your world of transformative listening and trying to get people to come to a group or anything like that?
so just transformativelistening.love is the website. So check it out. There's groups there that get announced as they go along. Right now it's under construction, but by the time people are listening to this,
Cool.
you'll be able to read. I post blogs there. I post upcoming groups. So this is where it's also a practice. You don't have to wait to do a group. You can just try it with people,
Mhm.
right? And so I try to share as much information as possible so that people could just dive in and do transformative listening sessions and make it a part of their lives. And for men, I would just say there's one thing that I love. There's a quote that I love that's about men. How does it go? Something like this: I'm a good guy and the bad guys are good guys too. Right? That there's really, it's, if you're acting out, if you're hurting people,
Right.
that's just really your hurts. That's not
Yeah.
who you really are. There's
Yeah.
no such thing as a bad person. There's bad behaviors,
Mhm.
but there's no such thing as a bad man.
Yeah.
There's
And hurt
certainly
people hurt
bad
people.
behaviors,
Yeah.
right? But yeah. So if you're hurting, get help,
Yeah.
right? And there's no shame, no matter what any of us have done. We're still at our core good.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's a awesome place to close it
Yeah.
out. Thank you so much, Ilya.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Thank
much.
you, Ilya. This was great. Thank you so much.
So great to meet you guys and have an awesome rest of your day. Thanks for having me on.